You wake up in a future that no longer remembers your name. There's no war, no sudden disaster, no countdown, just the slow erosion of memory. The cities are silent, their glass bones buried beneath jungles and ash. Satellites drift overhead, still blinking, still watching, with no one left to receive the signal. This isn't science fiction, it's a possibility, one of many. The question isn't whether we will disappear, it's whether anything we built can outlast the silence. We like to think of ourselves as inevitable, that time curves around humanity like gravity around a star, that our technology, our art, our culture, our species was always meant to rise and stay. But history disagrees. 99% of all species that ever lived are extinct. Civilizations fade faster than they form. Languages vanish, even ideas die. The dinosaurs ruled Earth for 165 million years. We've had barely 300,000. In cosmic time, we are a flicker. Still, we've done something astonishing. We've changed the world faster than the world could change us. Fire, tools, cities, code. In just a few thousand years, we've reprogrammed rivers, mapped our DNA, and built machines that think. We've stepped onto the moon and stared back at ourselves like strangers. But for all this momentum, there is no law that says we'll survive the next 1,000. What happens to a species that becomes its own tipping point? Climate, AI, synthetic biology, space colonization. Our tools are powerful enough to shape the future or end it. The choice is not just technological, but existential. Are we builders or are we gamblers? Are we preparing for tomorrow or just buying time? Imagine a girl 25 or 30 years old walking through the ruins of what used to be a spaceport. She doesn't remember the launches, the promises, the countdowns, but she sees the sky the same way we do, wide, unanswered. Somewhere in her pocket, she finds a smooth piece of metal etched with names no one speaks. She doesn't know what it meant, but she knows someone once looked up. So let's ask the real question. If we rewind from that moment, what could we do differently now? What will shape humanity in the next 1,000 years? Will we still be here? Will we still be us? The human body is a marvel of compromise. Skin that tears, joints that grind, eyes that narrow with age. Our biology is a survival sketch, not a masterpiece. We evolved for short lives, sharp instincts, and tribal cooperation, none of which prepared us for supercities, spaceflight, or a digital eternity. And yet we drag this ancient frame into a future it was never built for. We are soft machines running on legacy code. Our bones are still tuned to Earth's gravity. Our lungs still remember the oxygen of prehistoric forests. Even our brains, pattern-seeking, anxiety-prone, addicted to reward, were designed for scarcity, not abundance. For now, that hasn't stopped us, but it might, because evolution isn't keeping pace, and time isn't waiting. Consider this: every 35 seconds, someone is born with a genetic mutation, some harmless, some deadly. Over centuries, this quiet chaos accumulates. Without intervention, our own biology becomes a ticking paradox, flawed yet dominant, fragile yet persistent. Climate change adds a new pressure. Rising temperatures, new pathogens, ecological collapse. Our skin, our blood, our thermal limits were shaped for the Holocene. We no longer live there. And yet even now, there are limits we don't like to face. The maximum human lifespan, about 120 years, hasn't changed in decades. Our bodies begin to break long before that. Heart disease, cancer, neurodegeneration, they aren't just errors, they are outcomes. The cost of running a system beyond its design. Imagine the girl again. This time she's not in ruins, but in a clinic of glass and code. She's watching her own cells divide on a screen. One of them flickers, corrupted, rebellious, cancer. But before fear can bloom, a machine reprograms it. Gene by gene, it's rewritten. This isn't a cure, it's a redesign. Because the future won't be patient. If we want to survive 3024, we'll have to leave behind the idea that our bodies are sacred. The real question isn't whether we'll evolve, it's whether we'll dare to edit. In the past, we waited for evolution. Now we write it. Somewhere in a clean room, humming with cold light, a strand of human DNA is being edited. Not repaired, not patched, rewritten, base by base, letter by letter. This is not science fiction, it's CRISPR, a technology so precise it can snip the double helix like film from a reel and splice in something better. Stronger bones, resistance to disease, even, perhaps, longer life. We're at the threshold of bioengineering ourselves into a new species, Homo sapiens 2.0. not born from slow mutation, but sculpted by algorithms and ambition. In labs across the world, scientists are using gene editing tools to treat genetic disorders, sickle cell anemia, muscular dystrophy, even early-stage blindness. But this is only the beginning, because once you can fix a broken gene, you can also enhance a normal one. Taller, smarter, faster, more resistant, less emotional, more efficient. The line between therapy and design begins to dissolve. Let's say the girl is part of this new generation. Children not just born but constructed. Her immune system is unbreakable, her metabolism optimized. She doesn't get sick, her bones knit fast, her brain absorbs languages like breath. But somewhere deep inside her code, something is missing. A flaw, a trade-off, or just a ghost of something older, something human. Because with each line we edit, we risk erasing the uncertainty that once made us resilient. What happens when all babies are engineered? What happens when the natural becomes obsolete? Or worse, undesirable? And yet we'll keep going, because we've already begun. China has produced gene-edited embryos. The US is funding enhancement research. Ethics lag behind invention. And when survival is at stake, morality becomes a sliding scale. In the year 1324, it's likely that the unmodified human, biological, emotional, flawed, will be a relic, a museum piece, or maybe a myth. Not because we wanted to lose ourselves, but because we couldn't afford not to change. We used to think the brain was the limit, a dense knot of cells and sparks, beautiful but bounded. Then we learned to map it, to read its language, to plug machines into thought. Now that boundary begins to dissolve. Neuralink, brain-computer interfaces, synaptic memory implants. These aren't ideas for tomorrow. They're happening now, in trials, in labs, in military projects. What we're building is not just a prosthetic for the mind, it's a portal. One that could lead us out of the biological altogether. In 1,000 years, we may no longer need to carry consciousness in a fragile skull. We might upload it into silicon, into quantum substrates, into architectures we haven't yet imagined. This is more than sci-fi speculation. It's the logical extension of Moore's law and our obsession with self-preservation. When matter fails, we migrate to code. But what does it mean to exist as software? Imagine the girl again, only this time she has no body. She lives in a simulation so real it simulates memory. Her voice echoes in servers, her feelings are packets of light. She moves between virtual cities like breath through lungs. She can pause time, duplicate herself, be in 10 places at once. But there's something she can't do, she can't forget. Because immortality in code comes with a curse, permanence. Every version of her is archived, every mistake, every choice, recorded forever. And while death once gave meaning to life, now meaning must be manufactured, curated, streamed. There's a paradox here. We might escape the decay of flesh, but not the entropy of thought. If everyone becomes immortal, what happens to ambition? If experience becomes copyable, what happens to awe? And perhaps most unsettling, if we no longer need bodies, do we still call ourselves human? In 3024, it's possible that humanity will no longer refer to a species, but to a mode of perception. A layer of awareness in a mesh of synthetic minds, not dead, not alive, just distributed. And yet somewhere in a quiet, analog pocket of the world, maybe the girl walks beneath real trees. She doesn't speak in code, she doesn't run updates, she listens, not to data, but to wind. Progress is not a straight line. It loops, stalls, shatters. Civilizations rise on ideals and fall to entropy. The future isn't guaranteed, not even when we design it ourselves. In the year 30,024, there's another possibility. Not transcendence, not evolution, but collapse. It may not come with explosions or fire. It may come quietly, through climate tipping points we failed to reverse, systems too complex to repair, or AI algorithms optimizing us out of relevance. It may come through exhaustion, a civilization stretched too far, building for a tomorrow it didn't have the strength to reach. We already see fault lines. The biosphere shrinks, species vanish, megacities overheat, antibiotics falter. The cloud swells with our memories, but we forget how to feed ourselves. Our tools evolve faster than our ethics. We build machines that generate ideas we can't explain. We train models on datasets of our own confusion. Imagine a planet where the last satellites orbit a world gone still, where servers hum to no one, where skyscrapers stand like hollow teeth against a sky choked with dust. No bombs, no screams, just absence. And in that silence, echoes of a species that once asked, what if? But maybe not everything is gone. Picture her, standing alone in the shell of an observatory. A girl in faded clothes, fingertips trailing dust on a lens pointed at the stars. She doesn't know the constellations, but she knows they meant something once. She finds a manual, flips through equations she doesn't fully understand. But in her eyes, there's a question that has outlived us. What were we trying to see? The silence after collapse isn't just about endings. It's a mirror. It shows us how easily we forget that survival isn't inherited. It's earned, maintained, reimagined, again and again. Because to reach 3024, we can't rely on momentum. We need vision, resilience, imagination strong enough to shape not just machines or laws, but meaning itself. And if we fail, then let the ruins speak. Let future archaeologists, human or otherwise, dig through our data and find something worth decoding. A story, a hope, a signal we left behind. The future doesn't begin in the future. It begins here, now, in the quiet, overlooked choices we make every day. Not in cataclysms or discoveries, but in what we preserve, in what we imagine, in what we're willing to protect long after we're gone. If humanity still exists in 3024, it won't be because we mastered time or conquered death. It will be because we remembered how to be human, through change, through loss, through reinvention. Because we didn't just upgrade the body, we evolved the soul. Maybe we live on Mars, reshaped to breathe thinner air. Maybe we exist as thought, shimmering in digital constellations. Maybe we've fragmented into hybrid species, each adapted to a different version of Earth. But if we've made it that far, one thing will remain: a story. Not just of survival, but of purpose. Imagine her, no longer a girl, but an elder, still walking, still watching. She stands at the edge of a black glacier under a green sky. Around her, the hum of wind turbines, the glow of auroras, the sound of children laughing in languages born after hours faded. She closes her eyes and remembers, not facts, not code, but feeling. The weight of books, the flicker of cinema, the tremor in a voice saying, "I love you." Those are the things we have to pass on. That's the memory worth preserving. Because the true legacy of humanity is not our technology, or our architecture, or even our science. It's our capacity to wonder, to imagine stars before we could reach them, to draw gods before we could define atoms, to ask impossible questions and live in the space between them. So will humanity still exist in 3024? No one can answer that. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the better question is, what if something of us survives? A pattern, a poem, a breath of empathy encoded in circuits or carved into stone. Maybe the future will look back and say, they were flawed, but they dreamed. And in that dream, something still lives.